Hey YouTube, I'm diving back into this book. I'm gonna leave off right here where it says Bill has it all together. Bill has it together and has put together for you. So he has put it together for you, so you can also be one of the informed of the world. A well-informed person can make the right decision. William Cooper has my vote of approval because I have cared enough to find out who the man is. Now is your opportunity. Now, there have been many related sequential coincidences all throughout my life, incidents that by themselves would have led nowhere. Statistically, the odds against the same or related sequence of events having to one individual are astronomically high. It is this series of incidents that have convinced me that God has had a hand in my life. I do not believe in fate. Okay, I had read all that. So we're going down to this creed. As we said, he said that this is his creed. He believed first in God, the same God in which his ancestors believed in. He believes in Jesus Christ, and that is his Savior. Second, he believes in the Constitution of the Republic of the United States of America without interpretation, as it is written and meant to work. He has given his interpretation as it is written. He has given his sacred oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. He intends to fulfill that oath. Third, he believes in the family unit, and in particular his family union. He has sworn that he will give his life if it is required in defense of God, the Constitution, or his family. Fourth, he believes that any man without principles that he is ready and willing to die for at any given moment is already dead and is of no use or consequence whatsoever. Okay, so this is Mr. Cooper. Excuse me. This is him and his daughter Dorothy. Now, one thing that he finds most difficult is to write about himself. It is hard to understand why some people thirst for knowledge about me. It was never my intention to be anyone's hero. I am certainly no great example upon which to base one's life. I consider myself a very average, normal kind of guy. I have some pretty good points. I have some human failings. I am proud of some of my achievements, and there are things that he wishes he had not done. I'm not perfect, and I'm not sure that I ever want to be, but it is certain that I do not belong on anyone's pedestal. I am a man with a message, and the message will be accepted by only a few. To those few who will understand, I am your brother. Maybe we can change the future for the better. William Moore, in his disinformation publication entitled Focus, said that I am a fundamentalist preacher. 20 years ago, that would have been a compliment, but today it implies sleaziness. That is why he said it. I'm not, and have I never been, any kind of preacher. I'm not starting a church. I'm not developing a religion. I do not belong to any organizations. I do not have an entourage. There is no cult, and I'm not a cult teacher. No one camps out around my house. People have called radio talk shows claiming to have first-hand knowledge that I am a notorious radical right-wing extremist. Others have said they have proof that I belong to a white racist organization. Someone said they had found my name on a list of Communist Party members. A man in Los Angeles, always the same voice, calls when I am on radio claiming that I am an alcoholic. The truth is, most of my close friends and acquaintances consider themselves to be liberal Democrats. My only political stance is constitutional. My wife is Chinese. That rules out the racist propaganda. I fought the communists in Vietnam. I will fight them again if necessary, but only on United States soil. I used to drink a lot of alcohol in my younger days. As I become older, the booze dwindled to a trickle. Now I do not drink much at all. Most of my friends have never seen me take a drink. Annie and I are fond of using wine in our cooking. The lies, no doubt, will continue. For the purpose of keeping everything in perspective, let's all understand that attempts to assassinate my character will continue, and in all possibility will become worse. Rather than let that get in the way, I want you to believe everything bad that you'll ever hear about me. See if that changes anything that I have been trying to tell you. See if that negates any of the proof I believe that is the easiest way to handle those attacks. You who are sincerely interested in knowing will seek out me or those who are intimately close to me. Those who do are the only ones who will ever really know who and what I am. My ancestors came from England, Scotland, and Ireland. I had relatives who fought on both sides of the Civil War and some who fought in the Indian Wars. One of my ancestors was a horse thief in Texas. I don't know for sure, but I think he got hung for it. When I was a little boy, I heard whispers that there was some Cherokee blood in the family. Every time I asked about it, I was told to shut up. I never could figure out why everyone was afraid to talk about the Indian blood. I thought and still think that it is something of which to be proud. I have since discovered that the old folks in my family, like the old folks in almost every family, thought there was some stigma attached to being part Indian. In the old days on the American frontier, people lived by the hard rules. If you weren't accepted by your neighbors, you were more than likely to end up dead. My paternal grandmother's family named Vance traveled to Texas in a covered wagon and were some of the first settlers in the area of Odessa. My great-grandfather Vance was a real cowboy who eventually became one of the first oil field workers. My great-grandmother Vance told me that one of their first homes was a dugout on the prairie. My great aunt and sister owned a photo of her father, my great grandfather, Vance, standing in front of a saloon beside his friend. Both men had 6 guns stuck in their belts. When she was about 84 or so, she told me that my great grandfather, Vance, had gone off to do some work for a rancher. It was during a particularly nasty Indian uprising. My great grandmother was a newly married young woman at the time. She rose early one morning and saw smoke rising from the direction of one of her neighbors. Soon a war party of 5 young braves rode up to her dugout. She told me that she was scared to death and she knew if she showed it they would kill her for sure. The Indians were hungry. Great-grandmother Vance made them get down off their ponies, dragged them inside and fed them, and they didn't harm her. After filling their stomachs, they rode off in the direction where she saw smoke rising later that afternoon. She said that she learned later that she was the only one in the area that had not been burned out or killed. She was a very brave woman. Great-grandma Vance died in a car accident just a short time after telling me that story. I thought it was a very strange way for her to die. She went from covered wagons to Fords and Boeing 707s. Grandma Vance saw just about everything that was important in this world happen in her lifetime. My paternal grandfather's family also rode across the country in a covered wagon. They strayed a little north, however, ended up in the Indian Territory, now known as Oklahoma. They were on the front line during Oklahoma land rush and succeeded in staking out 320 acres on Big Bear Creek near what would eventually become Enid. A little town sprang up not too far away called Garber. They raised a lot of kids. I remember my great-grandmother cooking the biggest breakfast I had ever seen. We slept in real feather beds that swallowed us up. We ran to the outhouse in the middle of the night because we were embarrassed to use the chamber pot that great-grandma kept handy under every bed. In the morning, everyone would crowd around the wood stove in the kitchen or the coal stove in the parlor trying to get warm. My dad had given me a .22 rifle for Christmas, and great-grandma's farm was the first place I had ever went hunting. I got up before the sun one morning, tiptoed downstairs, and headed out for the creek. About 2 hours later, I saw my chance shot a quail sitting up in a tree. I strutted proudly to the farmhouse, holding that quail up for all to see. Luckily, the farmhand saw me first. He burst out laughing and asked me what I thought I was doing with that sparrow. I ran off and buried that bird and never said a word to anyone. I learned later that quails don't sit in trees. For those who may think this to be a terrible thing, I must tell you that every boy in those days was given a rifle and taught to hunt. During hunting season, many a family managed to put aside some extra money because the boys brought home meat from the hunt. That money saved was sorely needed. It was considered a duty for a citizen to own a gun in order to carry out the intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution. As long as the citizens owned guns, the government could never become oppressive. My mother's family came from Scotland and settled in North Carolina. They were hardworking and thrifty folk. Most of them were poor. I never knew much about my mother's family. I don't even remember anyone talking much about them. I know that my grandmother, Nellie Woodside, was forced to give up some of her children when her husband died. There was not enough money to feed all of them kids. My mother was one of those chosen to live in a children's home until things got better. No one ever talked about my mother's father. When I asked about my grandfather, I was told Red was no good and you just mind your own business. I got the feeling nobody liked him. He died before I entered this world. I was born May 6, 1943. I was reared in a military family. My father is USAF Lieutenant Colonel retired Milton V. Cooper. He prefers to be called Jack. The nickname was given him by family when he was a boy. Dad began his Air Force career as a young cadet flying big planes and retired as a command pilot with thousands of hours to his credit. I have a picture of him standing in front of an old biplane in his leather jacket and cap with the ear flaps, just like Snoopy wears. And this is his mother and father. And I take them to be invaders. He can remember the pilots gathered around the kitchen table talking about the planes and telling stories. Sometimes they discussed strange things called foo fighters or UFOs. When we were lucky, they got out the projector and showed Kodachrome slides. That was a special treat. By the time I was 8 years old, I think I had already seen and been inside every plane the Air Force, which used to be the Army Air Force, has ever owned. I had flown in several. I had seen many of them crash and had friends who had lost their fathers. I remember one night in the Azores at Lakes Field, we were at the base theater watching a movie when the projector ground to a stop. The lights came on and a plea was made for blood donors. We knew there had been a disaster. Everyone went outside and looked down the hill at the flight line. It was literally consumed in flames. We could see men on fire running through the night. A B-29 had crashed. I forget if it had been taken off for landing, but I will never forget the scene that was spread before me that night. Before that night, no one went back to the movie, even though we had only seen half. I was 9 years old, but I felt much older. I had seen many crashes, and I would see many more in the years to come, but I never saw anything that could compare to the wreckage. The fire was devastation, or the loss of life caused by the crash of that B-29. We left the Azores a year later. We climbed into the sky. I looked out the plane window. I could still see pieces of the wreckage where it had been pushed away from the runways. It was that incident that gave me an appreciation of the dangers that my dad faced on a daily basis. I knew then how lucky we were to see him walk in the door. Aviation wasn't safe in those days, especially for military pilots. We all knew families that had lost someone in a crash. Y'all, I'm pausing. Hold on. I just want to state that Um, having Cherokee in their blood. She's the only person that didn't die during the uprising. And then saying they were hungry for blood. Back in those days. Um, I didn't always love my father. He was a strict disciplinarian. My dad did not believe in spare the rod, and his belt was put to use frequently in our family. It was very sensitive but willful child. I was a very sensitive but willful child. Rules didn't mean much to me until I got caught breaking them. Many times I was the focus of his anger. Like most kids, I didn't understand. I thought he was a tyrant. Now I appreciate his upbringing. I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that without his strict discipline, we most probably would have turned out bad. Now I love my dad. He is my friend. He's an independent, gregarious, feisty, tough, confident, adventurous, sometimes overbearing, handsome, big bear of a man. My mother told me that she fell in love with him because he looks like John Wayne, and he does. Have watched him progress from one who displayed a public show of affection to a man who is just likely to hug you and shake your hand. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna stop there. And I don't want to get worn out with it. I did want to go back over the Indian stuff, and once I dig in deeper, I'll let you know if I find something else. I don't know if I want to continue reading this introduction. Just depends. Like I said, I'll let you know. Peace and blessings, YouTube, and I will talk to you later.